All right, guys, the Andrew Schatkin Show, and I'm excited to welcome the program Andrew Schatkin. Andrew, today we're talking about education, and it really frustrates you, doesn't it?
Let me tell you, Neil. Let me tell you, I am not a politically correct person. As a matter of fact, I run a podcast show which I preface it by saying I am politically incorrect. Meaning, if I'm gonna present something, if I'm gonna talk to somebody, I'm going to give them the facts and the truth as I see it with honest discernment and critical thinking. I am not concerned with political rhetoric and political hype and media lies and falsehoods. Don't want to waste your time with it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to waste my time. Tonight, I'm going to talk about why we, and I'm putting it baldly and honestly, why we are producing a nation of virtual illiterates. People can't read and write. I want to talk about that. This is one part today, and then I'll be going on to something else next time. I hope you enjoy it because the rubber's going to hit the road when you hear me talking. All right.
So, Andrew, when you talk about our education system, a bunch of illiterates, I want to know where you're getting this
Okay,
process
this
from.
is the thing. It's a good question, but I have talked to many young people, and I have my doubts as to what precisely they are being taught. It appears, Neil, that they are not reading books, at least in the urban school systems. Possibly in private schools, it's going to be different. I think it is. I've taught in private schools, and they are very much concerned with the traditional European literature and English literature. But I have sort of discerned that in conversations with many people, young people, they have never heard of some staple authors. And these people, let me tell you something, Neil, the people I'm referring to, John Milton, Leo Tolstoy, and George Orwell, three examples of where people had not heard of these people. I have to say, when people do not read these books,
Right.
this is my firm conviction, their minds are not functioning fully as they should. These books, which I just described, contain the greatest thinkers and greatest minds of all time. Maxim Gorky said when Leo Tolstoy died, he said when Tolstoy died, and Tolstoy was a tremendous writer and intellect, as was Milton. These were powerful minds.
Right.
Milton discerned in his epic poem Paradise Lost that the critical event in the history of humanity was the fall of men into sin. And I'll tell you something, Neil. Whatever anybody say to me, anybody who looks at this world knows that it is a wicked, evil, messed up world. It is. Those are the facts. I don't think I'm exaggerating. There have been 6 or 7 genocides in the past 100 years. Millions and millions of people are killed. You know, Neil, what people are
Right,
capable
right.
of.
So I'm going to take you in this education portion you're talking about, and
Okay,
saying this: if you're not reading these authors,
these
literature
these authors,
giants,
literature, European literature, the European
yeah. So
writers, and
where
I
are they
I
teaching
think
instead in our education system then?
okay, this is the thing. I'm not sure because I'm not in school at this point, but it appears that the education system is a political propaganda system. And many people say to me, some people say that they will only read an extremely current book. For example, somebody said to me, that how can you read the Bible? It's 3,000 years old. My response is I'm interested in the content of the book, not its age. And the fact is, when a book has been vetted over the centuries, you can be guaranteed that book has value. It has outlasted the sands of time.
Right.
So I think they are assigning, I can't say what they're assigning. I know I did some substitute teaching, and the book they were assigning to these, and I'm not making a racial comment. I'm not a racist. I'm a Christian. I don't make racial distinctions or sexual distinctions or anything like that. God actually has equal love for everyone. But I have to say this, that these books, these kids in this urban school were being signed were about plantation masters beating black slaves. They were, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying the idea isn't important, but they are assigning politically correct literature and books. And these books are current. They are not, they are also, I think there is a movement exclude white European authors on a reverse racial basis? What do you think? You
Yeah,
think so?
I mean, they're looking at things in a way that are going to click all the standards and objectives of that education system for that state. Um, and they're seeing greats like, unless you're in a honors lit class or AP lit class, those books are not assigned. And then even in college, they're not assigned if they even have that
No, they're not.
opportunity in a basic
No,
literature
they're not
course.
assigned anymore because there's a political movement
What is the political
to kick
movement
them
towards
out.
those authors? What is the political movement?
The political movement is, I think, is a movement based on reverse racism, namely that these evil white men who were the authors of these books were products of an extremely evil racist culture. They had slaves, and so the idea is that we have to, just like knocking down those statues
Right.
of those individuals of European extraction. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not commenting on it, but they are concerned with a kind of a conclusion that these people should not be read because of their racism. I think so.
Okay. So what racism? Let's go to one of the authors, and that's where
But
you have
the
a
question
part two.
is
That's
not
where you
whether,
have a
not
part two and a
racism.
part.
The issue for me is, are the books.
Mhm. What's the issue?
Well, let me say this. Um, when we don't read these writers I mentioned, and it could be Jane Austen, could be Joseph Conrad, could be Chaucer, should be Keats, could be Shelley, could be Byron, whoever they are, these writers of these are great writers. These are great thinkers. I have read them and I know they're great writers and thinkers. And people who do not read these books, their ability, their minds will be fried by cell phones, technology, and cell phones and technology and computers. When your thinking is formed on that basis, I think, and you don't read these great writers, this is my personal opinion, your ability to critically think will be significantly affected. And I think you can see it.
And what
In the
defining
absence of what?
critical thinking, Andrew, do you mean,
I
especially in the
mean the
21st
ability
century?
to
Mhm.
discern. For example, let me give you some examples of the ability to discern. I had a woman say, I'm not making a political statement of a political character, but this woman, people have said to me, or the president is a racist, and the question is, are you going to believe that rhetoric, or are you going to be able to think it through correctly, perhaps discern critically that it isn't true? If we live in a society where people are bombarded by political rhetoric, right?
Right.
Aren't
No,
they?
so you're saying that based on your belief system, your opinion, and I definitely want people to chime in on this at the YouTube channel, comment on the YouTube
Yeah,
channel,
go please. I
comment on it,
welcome a
especially on
comment.
the radio
Anybody who wants
show.
to say anything.
Go to shotgunshow.com for more information as well. Andrew, this is where I kind of agreed certain a lot of things you've said, but when you're talking
Go
about
ahead.
not reading these greats
Great
involving
writers. To
literature.
me, they're the great writers of all time.
But
That's my
see,
personal
what
opinion.
is that going to do? And
It
when you're
formed
looking at
because the
leadership,
person's look, a person is a vacuum. Unless you put something into that vacuum of value and worth, it remains a vacuum. And therefore, the person is, frankly, without content being, without things being put, a person's mind will function if there's nothing in it. But that functioning will be very limited. Therefore, the human mind must be fed with knowledge and thought and true thinking.
but see, that doesn't hit
And
the
these very
standards
great
today
writers,
in
and
education.
unless people's minds are fed, are given something to hold on to and to think about, I'm afraid they will be, frankly, Neil, it's not criticism. They can't help it. They'll be in darkness because they can't, there's nothing there. Unless there's content in the mind, nothing can happen. You could be a genius, but there's no ability to discern, think, and put the dots together. No.
And based on
How
the
are you going to
discernment
think if
that you're saying,
how are you going to think? Tell me, how are you going to think if there's nothing in your mind?
See, and then
Please tell me.
there could be the argument that you're saying that I agree with you. Not having these greats for people to study is a travesty to put certain other types of propaganda
Are
out
they
there
being
in
hurt?
a
Are the young
specific
people being
point of
hurt by
political.
this?
Huh? What'd you
Are
say?
the young people being hurt by this
See,
policy?
I would say they're being hurt and they're being propagandized, but I would not say losing these thinkers is destroying their education system. It's
But I'm
just
just
it's
saying that, let
mhm.
me say this much. I don't mean to interrupt you, Neil, but unless a person's mind is given something to placed in it, unless thought and intellect and real thinkers are placed in that person's mind, I hate to say this, Neil, but that person isn't going to be able to think.
Okay. I'll agree to disagree for in this point, Andrew, in the fact in education that yes, we are providing a different ideology in our schools that does not give the other side of the story. But by not providing these courses or different things, I don't think it's going to be the end all be all. Education, yes, has been watered down, especially in the public education system, based on the tiers and the tracks that we put people for involved. But not to be exposed to specific literary greats. Yes, it's hurtful. Yes, it's terrible in certain aspects, but it's not going to change
Is it going to be
society.
helpful to that person in their lives?
What's going to change society is the ability
Mm,
to not work, to learn how to work hard. Yes, these literary giants, it's a travesty that they're not exposed to as much as possible. But
mm,
what we're teaching is that hard work doesn't need to be made. That hard work and based on it's more will
uh-huh.
give you things than other things. I don't think this is a microcosm of the problem. This is not the whole end all be all. I would like to know what other people think, but not reading those books is not going to prove someone's intelligence or discernment, in my opinion. But
Okay.
but see, but on the other hand, Andrew, because this is
Uh-huh.
your show,
Mm,
is this is just the part of what education's becoming. Education's being told and taught that we're going to give you a job and that job's going to pay you and you're going to continue to work that job even if you don't reach the highest level, and
mm.
we're going to give you the aid that you need and everything else. That's where we are going in society based on this election coming up. That okay, you have a good job, I enjoy my job, but I'm going to be paid what I'm worth regardless if it's not a huge skill set. And that people that work harder and work more hours are going to pay more in taxes and also are going to uh, be forced to take care of the rest. That is what
Well,
they're teaching in our education system, and
uh-huh.
there's no way of overcrying that. And it all started
Mm.
with the Weather Underground and Bill Ayers, and Bill Ayers brought this whole process. So this is just the thing. If you have this kind of literary analytical thinking taught in your schools, people are going to start questioning what they're being taught. They want people to be
Well, when you
followers,
don't
not
have
leaders.
this input in people's minds, are they going to be able to discern correct political judgments, make judgments on current events, on
No, they're
political
already
judgments?
propagandized in the
They've
schools
been
that they.
propagandized in a certain direction. Therefore, when you read these people, in my mind, I'm not saying it's not true. The schools are vocational. You're right. But I have an issue with the school being totally vocational. Okay. I think a school should be hand down the greats of the culture. That's my personal opinion. If education becomes purely vocational, then we'll produce a nation of plumbers. And that's all.
So based on all of that stuff, Andrew, best place we can go is shatkinshow.com for more information. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you think. Like, comment on the page. If you're listening to the radio program, make sure you go to shatkinshow.com to listen, because it's something Andrew brings out that people don't bring out. He's not bringing this crazy conspiracy stuff. Andrew's giving what he feels is the missing part of America today. The ending of Christianity, Judeo-Christian culture in this society. As we saw in the debate last night, that's what's happening. I'm a journalist. It's not my job to be an
Mm-hmm.
opinion artist. My job is to present
Mm-hmm.
every point of view on my network. of shows. And so you're never going to hear me unless it might come into education, giving my point of view and my thoughts, my value system. Why? Because I am for all the people. But Andrew has this platform on my network. Andrew has this platform on YouTube and his radio programs and his podcasts to bring his point of view. So we want to know what you think. Comment, like, share. If you watched the debate last night, you would have seen ultimately, if you thought that Kamala Harris won that debate, Senator Harris, over Biden, over Pence, you don't know how to rate a debate. So that's the kind
But
of
isn't
stuff.
that part of the problem, Neil, that your ability to think, if you can't think correctly, your judgments will be incorrect?
Opinions is all that matters now, Andrew. And as I try to bring is,
If you
I
think
bring
in
everyone.
terms of totally in technology and cell phones and computers, what are you going to be thinking about?
All right. So
You tell me.
shackandshow.com, Andrew.
What are you going to be thinking about if you have only cell phones,
Exactly.
computers,
I disagree on that.
this?
I believe technology is the greatest thing in the world. I believe
I
the
ask
thing
you,
is,
what are you going to be able to discern and think
I think
if
so.
you only
I
have
think
a
you are.
diet of
You
cell phones and
basically are
technology?
going to have to
What
learn
are
on
you
your
going to
feet.
be able to figure out?
You're going to have to learn on your feet. So, for example, what I'm able to do is multiple businesses
when you
and run
have
different
great
projects.
thinkers in your mind,
See,
your
I don't
ability
think
to think
that
will
that
be
develops it, Andrew.
increased.
I don't
What?
think that develops it. I think it hurts the discernment so that you can understand Judeo-Christian values. I think it's the parents at the home to provide that literary stuff, but the education system's propagandizing. But ultimately,
But
Andrew, that
isn't the education system almost based on business and technology
they're
and
not
money and
teaching leaders.
materialism?
They're not
That's what they're
bringing
feeding
leaders.
these kids with.
They're
Get a
bringing.
job, make a lot of money,
I
right? What kind of a goal
No,
is that?
they're
You
not
tell
looking at
me.
that making a job and other money. You'll see that the system is not meant to do that. It's meant on people that
That
want to
is
put the
what they're
work.
telling people is good.
Sure.
Get a job, make a lot of money, don't know
I
anything else.
I don't
Don't
agree.
waste your
I
time.
think that that's not what you're seeing the movement that's happening right now. If you see that you're seeing a movement of I'm going to sit on my butt and get checks. Ultimately, that's what we're seeing in the
I
coronavirus and
still raise the
COVID-19.
issue. What are you going to know from your cell phone, from your computer,
Yeah, I disagree.
from
So that
what
could
are
be a
you going to
debate
know?
for another time, Andrew.
Are you going to know
Technology. I think
history?
technology is one of the
Let me
greatest
ask you
things in the
this.
world.
Are you going to know history?
See, I think you can.
If you don't
See,
know
this is the
history,
see,
you're not going to be able to understand what's going on in the present.
so we'll talk about this later. Part 2 of education, but we got to talk technology and give you
I
my.
repeat, I want to say this to you, Neil. If you don't know history, what are you going to understand about the present
It's a
and current
cycle.
events?
It's an
What are
absolute
you going to
cycle.
know?
But see, they're not teaching history in high school, and they're choosing what they want to choose in college. It's up to us. And honestly,
What are they
Andrew, if you did
teaching?
it,
I think we agree on this. They're teaching politics.
oh yes, they are because they have to. It's part of
They're
what you
teaching
need to do to bring a
propaganda.
movement.
And
And
isn't it left-wing political propaganda
yes,
they're teaching?
but that's what we did before in teaching family values and different Judeo-Christian in our schools, and then it got shut down. It's all about how people bring it out. And the bottom line is, at the end of the
There
day,
may not be a lot of democratic movement for teaching political history. I don't think so.
I,
It's not what
I,
people want. It's what they have been pushed
they're
into.
not going to. They teach culture, and they're going to talk about Muhammad and things like that. They have a specific set plan. It's up to you to be educated in
Did you
this
know that
world
Muhammad
nowadays.
was a
It's
pet? Do you know
about
that
work ethic.
Muhammad? Did you know that Muhammad was a pederast?
So
He
we'll
had
have to
little
talk about that
boys.
another time. We don't want to. So Andrew,
I
that was
think
the Andrew
everybody should know
Schatkin
about
show, guys.
this. They
Okay,
should know
guys.
about Muhammad.
I understand. That's another topic. All right, Andrew Schatkin show, guys. ShatkinShow.com. Take care. Next week, part 2, and of our education system.
I welcome